they're testing like an in-app article reader within Reddit. So this would let you open the article in Reddit and read it without having to leave Reddit. So it's kind of turning Reddit into like the hub for news and discussion, I guess.
Hello, how are you, Mark?
Hey Ryan, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you very much. I've been away for a little bit. Not in the sun like Keane, but look, we'll take it anyway.
Have a
Um,
nice week off. You're at the Irish Open.
I was at the Irish Open. Yeah, I got to see Rory bringing it home. Um, she's absolutely blessed to be there. It was actually now someday out. I would highly recommend going to it. It's funny actually. I don't know. Did you see they announced next year? It's on in Trump's course next year.
Oh,
Got
go
announced.
away. Very good.
But didn't my mom go and buy tickets for like our whole family for next year, like a year in advance? Absolute notions,
Down
like but
in Doonbeg, is it?
down in Doonbeg, yeah, yeah,
Supposed to be nice down there, I heard.
yeah. I'd say it'll be class. I think some people are a bit up in arms that they picked his course.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm sure. Like, I mean, he's he's like Marmite, isn't he? People either like him or they hate him.
yeah, I saw
Like
someone
whether
make a funny
it's
point too. They were like, sure, like if people are annoyed now, like give them another year. Like imagine how annoyed they could be like when the tournament's actually on.
but my brother, his buddy, used to be like one of the groundskeepers on the golf course down there.
Oh
So
no way.
yeah, he says immaculate and good course to play on. So
Oh yeah, I'd say it's amazing to be fair. Right, so we'll
jump
jump
into
right
it.
into it. So we have some news and updates.
Okay, yeah. So the August spam update, I think we covered this a couple of weeks ago. So this started on the 26th of August. Google launched it, and they said it'd take a couple of weeks to complete it. So just we've been keeping an eye on things for our own clients, but we've also been looking out, for news within the SEO community. So a lot of people are kind of reporting kind of big and persistent issues with content, with new content, especially getting indexed. So like new pages and legitimate pages are getting stuck in like the discovery phase in Google. So if you go into your search console, you can check out your page indexing. There's different kind of reasons why a page mightn't be indexed, but there's a section there for discovered but currently not indexed, which means Google's found your page but it hasn't added it to the index. So people are reporting a lot of that happening. Like I said, especially for new pages. So Google hasn't confirmed any kind of a bug. So the theory is that there's either a massive backlog with people trying to manually index pages, or with the spam update, Google's been a lot more selective, trying to kind of filter out the low quality spam pages.
Is it like a
Um,
review stage, kind of like when they're
Say that again.
like a review stage when they're kind of in that little?
Kinda, yeah. But it seems like kind of maybe good pages are getting caught in the crossfire. So, just some things that people should be looking out for is just obviously check your search console and your analytics. Look for any kind of big drops in organic starting from around 26th and maybe like sustained over a couple of weeks and not just a 1 or 2 day dip. Look out for volatility with your money keywords, like your big keywords. So like your main ones, I suppose. You know, you'd want to be going in looking at your indexing report in Search Console. Look for pages that are in there. If you think they should be indexed, you can request that they be manually indexed. Because, like I said, it seems like there's a lot of high quality URLs getting stuck in there. So maybe your site could be affected. Um, you want to be just checking for any kind of manual indexing pages or manual indexing penalties. So there's a feature in Search Console as well that lets you kind of look and see is there anything, if Google has any penalties against you. Um, so like the inspection tool doesn't really guarantee indexing. And a lot of people are kind of saying that it either doesn't work or the page gets indexed temporarily before being pulled back out. So you want to kind of be looking for any issues there. And then what's a good thing to look is just check your sitemap. You can either do that if in your browser with the sitemap.xml and just check the last read date on pages. If you have something new that should be in there and it isn't, that might be a red flag, and you can look at the last modified date for existing content to see when, if it's being crawled and if it's more or less frequent. And then just check your own pages for internal linking. So within kind of a site architecture, few internal links pointing to pages might kind of indicate that they're struggling a bit, and that Google might be dedicating the crawl budget to find them, if you're not signaling that they're important. So kind of go back and link to your important pages or check the linking on them from other pages.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, there's a lot in that.
Yeah, that was a bit more than I thought I was going to be saying.
No, that's it. It's interesting, good to know. And it seems obviously something you'd want to be checking at the minute. Like it'd be
Yeah, I think once I
very
kind of started
important.
talking there, more stuff kind of came into my head and just went, bleh. But yeah, so next up, what do we have? Oh yeah, so that's not ChatGPT.
You have to read it.
Reddit. Yeah, so Reddit is after launching publishing tools. It's called Reddit Pro. It's a new suite of free tools for publishers, and it's kind of Reddit is trying to help out media outlets to kind of better integrate, I guess, with the Reddit community. Um, the kind of key features of this is an analytics dashboard, which I think that's the image of it there. It looks
Yeah.
on a very like Search Console, to be honest.
Yeah.
But it kind of lets publishers track how content is kind of performing and how like the engagement is across different communities. Um, this Reddit Pro is going to let you like import content via RSS feeds for easy sharing, and there's going to be like AI powered recommendations, because everything is AI nowadays, to kind of tell you what's the best subreddit to share a story. And I think like what's very interesting is that they're testing like an in-app article reader within Reddit. So this would let you open the article in Reddit and read it without having to leave Reddit. So it's kind of turning Reddit into like the hub for news and discussion, I guess.
Yeah. It's funny.
Um,
It could change into a completely different thing. Yes, Reddit.
yeah, it's kind of weird. Like I suppose like that the in-app article reader is designed to kind of keep people there, so keep people on Reddit, and
Yeah.
I guess like you're getting the engagement from the Reddit community, but maybe you're losing out on like the direct traffic you might have got from people clicking a link or the referral traffic.
Okay.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd wonder how publishers feel about that, because if you're already losing referral traffic and traffic to like AI overviews and ChatGPT and stuff,
Yeah.
this is kind of
It's kind of almost as good as stealing the article, is it? If you're not going to.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then like the AI recommendations, I mean that's pretty cool for social media managers. If it just kind of tells you this is the best place to put it, that's
That
kind
is
of
good. That's
cool.
quite interesting.
Yeah,
That could
but
even be
again,
handy if you had a question. If I wanted to ask a question, say like if I was going on holidays and I was like, what are the best restaurants somewhere? If it told me what was the best subreddit to put that in, where I was likely to get like a good result or something, or good.
yeah, exactly. Like it's kind of cool. Like it's gonna save you time, and um, it's kind of weird though, because I noticed Reddit have been pushing the ads like a lot lately. But I think like Reddit users have been historically, very anti ads. So I kind of wonder how something like this would work.
Yeah, yeah,
Would people just be perceived as, corporate spammers if you're just pushing a lot of your content into it?
true. Yeah,
And it takes away some of the kind of user generated angle. But yeah, but anyway.
yeah. And like, is there people? Would you say that there's people that get all their news from Reddit? Like, they have.
I think so. Yeah, I would say a
Yeah,
lot of people use Reddit as a news source. I mean, it's probably why they're going in this direction, and I mean,
yeah.
it's
It must be.
probably why Google spent a lot of money doing a deal with them, for the
Yeah,
data.
yeah,
Um, yeah, I mean, I use Reddit a little bit, but not a lot. But
yeah.
you kind of see in comments like people just seem to, if you're a Reddit if you're like a Reddit person, they seem to just use Reddit, you know.
Yeah, yeah. It is nice for the personal touch. If there's like, I use a lot for things like for when I want like an honest opinion kind of on something
Yeah,
like it's good for that.
and like the fact it's becoming so like prevalent in search results, I think it's people will start using it a lot more for
Yeah, yeah.
news, you know.
You don't have to always put Reddit at the end of the question there to get it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. So,
So yeah, sticking with Reddit, more news out of them. So they've now started to block the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. So I don't know if you've seen the Wayback Machine. It's basically like a digital archive, and it's they go on to sites every now and again. They take a little snapshot, and you can go back and look how a site looked over time. We would use it, you know, if we go into work on a site. You know, you might go back to see how it was like a year ago or 2 years ago. And I think like a lot of kind of researchers, journalists, and stuff like that, they would maybe kind of go back and look at stuff, you know, over time. So it's cool. Like it could be in the digital tool of the week. Like it's fairly cool. Like,
yeah.
but yeah, just it shows it takes a shot of like a website 12 months ago, 24 months ago, whatever, and shows you how it is. So Reddit is blocking them from now like crawling their site and archiving individual posts and threads and user profiles, and I think it's limiting it to only the homepage. Now Reddit believes that not all of the content on Reddit should be archived in the same way that the Wayback Machine does for other websites, but the official reason is to prevent AI companies from, you know, going around its terms and conditions and its policies and scraping Reddit data, and then scraping Reddit data from the Wayback Machine to train like language models without permission from Reddit or payment. I think if you were skeptical, the without payment is probably the important part there. Um, so like I think it's they're going to try and get developers like AI developers who want to use the Reddit data. I think they're going to try and get them into licensing deals like the one that they have with Google that they signed last year. Do you know, I think yeah, Google paid a lot of money to get access to Reddit data, and there's a bit of a history there. Like I think a few months after that, I think it's in that Verge article. A few months after the deal with Google, Reddit started blocking other search engines from crawling unless they, you know, unless they paid. I
Would
think
that be like a big issue with like any website on the Wayback Machine? Like if the Wayback Machine in general aren't putting up much of a fight against their stuff being kind of their data being scraped, like isn't that kind of like there's most websites have a lot of their stuff up there?
yeah, I suppose like it's I suppose the theory is the internet should be kind of open access, you know.
Yeah,
Now
yeah,
you're kind of putting big chunks of it behind the paywall, and even the site that's only trying to like archive the internet for historical purposes, you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's
It's
they're
very
trying,
interesting, really.
you know, it's like a paywall now to do it. Like,
Yeah,
um, so yeah, it's kind of seems to be part of a larger trend with Reddit and with other like third party sites and apps and stuff, you know. But I suppose this is a big one, and you like I said, you would wonder, is it on principle or is it like a monetization thing?
yeah. No, it's an interesting one. I'm actually dying to go onto that website now and look at a few old ones. The Wayback Machine, I kind of it's a cool website. But here's another article I think that just came out this morning or yesterday maybe, but it was on Search Engine Journal, I think. So it showed that new data shows ChatGPT users are more engaged than Google searchers, but AI traffic comes in much smaller volumes. So I think this is one that kind of surprised me off the bat. I would have
Yeah,
thought that a lot of you think of people using AI like for quick searches, not very engaged, like kind of in and out. But this, yeah, the data here showed that so there's less people searching with ChatGPT, but they're more engaged. So I think the numbers are quite close. Like
yeah,
ChatGPT
they're
engagement
close enough.
rate 63% versus an organic search engagement rate of 61%. But yeah, it was interesting. Maybe a sign of the way things are going, or I don't know.
I suppose like the kind of the big thing is that while ChatGPT and AI traffic referrals, it's low, but it seems to be highly qualified, and there's kind of good intent there.
Mm.
Um, it's I mean, we would have been working on it was quantity over quality. You know, um, and this kind of seems to be that, or quality over quantity, I should say. And like this seems to be that, like it's highly engaged traffic coming from tools with,
Yeah,
from the AI tools. Like,
like the people searching with ChatGPT have more intent. Like it's a
and this is the big question. Like, I mean, if if it is lower volume but they're more engaged and it's higher intent, then is that worth more than less engaged traffic from Google?
yeah, it's a funny
Um,
one, but it's obviously a sign of the way in the way things are going.
Yeah, it is. To be honest, it is like, and it's this GEO stuff, which is still a bit nonsense. But
Yeah,
I guess you're just going to be more trying to optimize content to, you structure. I think we talked about this last week or 2 weeks ago. Structuring stuff to get it into AI overviews and to get it into
yeah,
ChatGPT. So you would be kind of structuring your content that way. But yeah, and like I think too, it shows diversification and how people are searching, um, rather than like traditional SEO like Google and Bing or whatever. They're kind of using ChatGPT to search.
yeah.
Uh,
A lot of people actually obviously starting to use it. Um, so shallow dive of the week here. This was something I came across. It's not, I don't
SEO.
think, necessarily a very new thing. I think the article I saw that's linked there could have been from 2024 maybe, but I just thought this was brilliant. SEO, the board game, just like for the people when they finish work at their digital marketing agency and they just need more. um, so I thought this description here was funny. So the board game is a strategic game for 2 to 4 players where you play an SEO expert, purchase and optimize websites, build your digital empire,
Unbelievable.
and compete for the title of top SEO kingpin.
Just noticed the girl there is holding a sword. Why is she holding a sword?
Maybe that's the SEO kingpin. Maybe that's what.
Cool.
Uh,
This is very good. We should get that for
yeah,
the next time we meet up.
I know definitely. But yeah, I've never thought of wanting to be the top SEO kingpin. I thought that was
No,
funny.
that's
Funny.
where we're all aiming for, Ryan. We're
Yeah,
gonna all be top SEO kingpins.
exactly. But yeah, that's the shallow dive of the week.
So marketing tip of the week. This week we're going to look at kind of a good free marketing tool for smaller local businesses, and that is your Google Business Profile. So that's the information box that shows up in Google search and on maps when you kind of Google a company. So it's like really good to have one, but you also need to be optimizing it. So how do you optimize it? Well, the first thing you do, and this seems like it's very basic, but a lot of people don't, but complete every section in the profile. So you want to be getting in your business name, your address, phone number, website, opening hours. Google likes data and it likes accurate, complete data. So you want to be kind of paying special attention to these things. The fundamentals are kind of what makes things work. And so things like your hours, you'll probably see, if you Google, like, I don't know, name me a shop, right?
Duns.
Duns. Okay, so that'll have like between 8:30 and 6:30 Monday to Wednesday. Could be later on a Thursday, but then you'll see like they might have special hours for bank holidays or any closures, and you might see that on the profile. Like, bank holiday hours may differ. So just things like that, put them in. A full, complete profile. It looks better for Google and for users and potential customers. The next thing is getting your categories right. So your primary category, like, that's going to be your most important and your main one. So let's say like if you are a restaurant. So you want to tell Google what you are, you're a restaurant, but then you can be more specific. So instead of just restaurant, say like you're an Italian restaurant or like you're a Mexican restaurant. And then you can get a little bit deeper and add in secondary categories. So like again, if you Google like Mexican restaurant and somewhere comes up and you'll see like they have things like takeaway, dine in, venue for events, things like that. So if you just kind of fill those out, it'll kind of help you show up in more kind of varied and more relevant searches. The next thing is images. So people like images, and I think people, if you had something with dodgy photos or no photos, people tend to not like it. I don't know about you, but I think it looks kind of dodgy,
Yeah,
Um,
100%.
so like I think if you don't add like an image, it'll just default to a Google Street View image, which again can look dodgy because it might just be a street corner or railings or something like this. So
Yeah,
you kind of want to be uploading high quality recent images. Start with your logo, then put in like a cover photo, and then like add in, I don't know, pictures inside the offices or, outside, your team, your products, just things that are kind of good and
just
relevant.
make a big difference with the immediate trust you have for.
Exactly. Yeah. It kind of it builds trust and it shows people like exactly what to expect. And like photos or profiles that have photos and more photos and good photos, they get more kind of clicks and they get more requests for directions and things like that. Um, so then the next thing is a big one. Very important. You need to keep on top of reviews. So reviews, I think, for a business are probably like the biggest signal of trust, and like it's a pretty simple thing to like ask someone to leave you a review. If you have like a successful sale, you get the emails be like, leave us a review, but sometimes you don't always get good feedback. So if you do get negative feedback, you need to be going in and responding to reviews, thank people for positive ones. And then for negative ones, respond professionally, and try to kind of take it offline, say like contact us here and we'll try and resolve the issue. Like this shows that you're engaged and, you care about customers and the business. Um,
Because what'll happen a lot of the time is, I know what I do is, if there could be 100 5-star reviews and one 2-star review,
You
like you
always look for the negative, yeah.
so
And like
especially if there's even a reply, it'll show like a bit of, that you're proactive.
sometimes you do see people and they get like a bit defensive with reviews, especially negative ones, and
Yeah.
like they go in and they like slate the person. Definitely don't do that. Uh,
Unless they deserve it.
Unless they deserve it. Yeah, because that's the other thing. You see people putting in kind of fake reviews as well. So then build out your FAQs. So, you know, um, anyone can kind of ask questions, and answer questions on your, about your business, but you kind of want to like get there first. So I don't know, how would you approach this? Like think about the top 10 things you get asked most about your business. Like, do you do free consultations? Do you have parking on site? If you're like a restaurant or a coffee shop, like, do you, I don't know, are you dog friendly? That's a big thing nowadays. Like, do you have gluten free options? Things like that. So just try and think about what someone would ask about your business. Maybe like think
Yeah.
about, if you were a customer, what are the things you might be asking, and then answer those questions yourself.
Yeah. I
Um,
suppose like try highlight the ones that you've got favorable answers to. Like in the, are you dog friendly? If you are dog friendly, that would be a good one to put in, I suppose. Like,
Absolutely. So then, like, you can kind of control the information and you can put out the positive stuff. And then lastly is just keep it updated, update it as regularly as possible. If you do have any kind of big changes or changes to hours, opening hours, services, things like that, if you have that new, just put it in. You kind of want to stay on top of it. It's not so much like a set it and forget it kind of a thing.
yeah.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. Stuff. That was very good, and obviously a very important one. Um, so the helpful tool of the week. This is one that Mark, you showed to me.
Yeah, I like this.
Search Herald, yeah. I wouldn't use a
And
lot for this, like,
yeah, it basically just compiles the news story, like SEO and like Google News, Google Ads. Like they just kind of compile like the biggest stories from a lot of different websites, so you don't have to go to 5 or 6 different places. And then they do it in this nice kind of old timey newspaper style. So
Yeah,
it's
it's lovely. I love going on to it. And
yeah,
like it has your search engine journal, your search engine land. The main ones you're going to be going to anyway, probably.
yeah, that's it. Like it's just what's the I can't think of the name, like a meta thing. But anyway, yeah, it just pulls everything together so you don't have to pull together the biggest news stories. We actually use it for, putting this stuff together, which,
Yeah.
yeah,
So, and I find usually like, say, if I have gone to search engine land or search engine journal, the ones that usually stand out usually are the ones that are on this, in fairness. So whoever's
is
picking them is
yeah.
obviously, they've got a good eye for it. So, and
Yeah,
obviously,
cool tool for like staying updated on industry stuff.
exactly. And the lovely design obviously goes a long way. So the trends of the
So
week.
trends of the week. This yeah, in Ireland now, the big thing. There's a presidential election coming up. Is that next Friday?
It's October, I think.
October 23rd.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah. So Maria Steen, she's after announcing
The
she's running. I
latest
think she got the
candidate.
backing of the 10 senators or whatever she needs. There was obviously, I suppose, the biggest trend of the week. It was a couple of tragic news stories to come out of the US.
Mm.
Probably not the place to go into it here, but yeah. So
Yeah,
and there's
there's obviously
always a weather warning, isn't there?
always a weather warning. Yeah, a storm or a weather warning every week. Everyone has to be worried about something.
Yeah.
Worried about some weather coming.
And then, do
Uh,
you know what's interesting now? Because I'd be a fan of the NFL, and obviously there's a game coming up now at the end of the month here in Dublin. But what's nice to see is pretty much every Friday and every Monday, you see Packers and Commanders down there at the end.
yeah.
Like there seems to be a lot of NFL trending now. I think
Oh, okay.
Packers beat the Commanders last night. But
Interesting.
yeah, it's interesting enough. Again, it shows like a lot of American trends, I suppose, are kind of creeping
A
in.
lot of them, yeah. Especially
Um,
now the last few weeks, a lot of it was. A lot of our the Ireland training was dominated by American stuff.
and Margot Robbie, you told me she's on the Late Late Show before we
She
jumped on.
is her and Colin Farrell. I think they were starting a movie together. They're both on the Late Late Show tonight. So it's the first Late Late Show of the season, I think. So they're starting big.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, I think Mary Robinson is on as well. She's probably talking about the presidential candidates.
I'll just
Uh,
Google it here now.
so they're obviously trying to start strong
Very
with
good.
Colin Farrell and Mary
Think
Robbie.
that's a decent lineup, isn't it?
Yeah, in fairness, now not bad at all. And Patrick Keelty is doing it again.
Is Michael Flatley on it?
Michael Flatley is also on it, yeah.
Jesus.
Who was also a potential presidential candidate at one point, so there's obviously a bit of a theme there.
Yeah, God.
But
Connor Murray's on it. Geez, good lineup. So what time is that on? People
there
should
started, yeah. I think it's about 9:30.
uh,
So yeah, that's about all the trends.
all the trends.
Um, so ask the experts. I should have said the expert, the singular expert today.
Well, I think our main expert is sunning himself somewhere.
He's
He's on a beach
drinking.
earning 10%.
So we'll just do a small few there today. So Mark, what is a sitemap, and does my website need one?
What is a sitemap? So a sitemap is kind of essentially a roadmap for your website. And it gives search engines like Google, like it tells them all the pages and all the contents of the site. So if you kind of think of it nearly like a table of contents for the site, and it lists all your important pages and tells like Google how they're organized. And yes, your website does need one. When Google can find your pages, Google can find your pages without it, but like a sitemap will kind of nearly guarantee that it knows about all the pages that you think are important. And it's very important if your site is like really like if you have a large site with a lot of pages, or if your site is brand new, or if it has sites that are kind of buried deep in the site. It'd be like a fundamental piece of good technical SEO.
Yeah.
So there's, again, talking about Search Console, like you can kind of go in and submit your sitemap um, into Google. So yes, you need one, and it's basically like the roadmap for your site.
Okay. And like, would you find much websites say that don't use it, or is it fairly standard now that like everyone in the know?
I think it's fairly standard. Like, I mean, with tools like kind of Yoast SEO and stuff, they'll like build a sitemap for you, and you just
Oh,
kind of have to like submit them then. But yeah, I think it'd be fairly standard.
yeah. Okay, good stuff. I think we have one more maybe. So, what's the purpose of using headings H1, H2, etc. in a blog post? So, like, we obviously this is something very important that like we always make sure that
Yeah.
we're in the H1s, H2s, and all.
So the purpose of headings, first of all, it's kind of for user experience. So like it kind of gives a better, kind of breaks up the content and kind of gives a better experience for users. And then the second thing would be that it gives context to search engines and Google and Bing and whoever about the article itself and like the hierarchy and what's more important. So like for users, they break up long walls of text and they make it kind of easier to scan and read. So like someone could kind of glance at your H2s and H3s and they could understand what the post is about, or like they can find a specific section that they're looking for, and then for people, for search engines like Google, headings kind of, they add a structure and they create a hierarchy for your content. So like your H1 is the main title, it's the most important, and that tells Google what, like, this is the overall topic of the page. And then your H2s, they'll act as like the subtopics, and then H3s, H4s, they break the page and the content down even further. So if you have a good heading structure and you're using them like properly, it'll like help Google to understand the relationship between the different parts of your content, which is important for ranking well.
Yeah, I think as well. Like, this probably sounds very obvious and silly, but like, I in college now would have done little WordPress sites like that, and I know for a fact that say to break up my headings, I would have used the H1 probably the top, the first heading option,
Yeah,
and then I would have used I'd say another H1 with like a smaller font as to make in my head this looks like a subheading.
yeah.
But like obviously now that probably sounds very silly, but like good to know that like
Yeah, no,
those
you're kind of
looks
on the
like
right track there.
H1s, they'll just look like H1s still to
Yeah,
Google obviously. So like use the tools that are there to
yeah.
show
It's
that it
literally
is.
a little HTML tag in the back.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're on the right track. You were an SEO expert before you even knew it, Ryan.
Notice that I'm asking the questions, not answering. So that's us for this week.
Yeah, that's us. I think now. Good
Thanks,
one. We kind of went through that quick enough. I hopefully now Keane will be back next week and he can.
thanks God. Yeah,
We'll have
we'll
the
be we'll
expert.
be very quiet next week. We'll let him do all the talk.
Yeah, you will just sit back and relax. You can talk through.
Yeah. Okay. Cheers, Mark.
Cheers, Ryan. Sure, I'll talk to you
Yeah.
later. Thanks for that.
See you again.